Hey guys, this is the notes for 5.5 that talks about composition of functions. So composition of functions will be combining um, functions together, right? Whether you add them, subtract them, multiply them, or divide them. Okay, so in this first part, what we're going to do is we're going to do different operations with given two functions. So you see f of x is x plus 2, and g of x is x squared minus 4. So wherever you see an f, right, you're going to use this function here. And whenever you see a g, you're going to use this function. Okay, so this tells us to add, right, f of x and g of x together. Okay, so we take our f of x function, so x plus 2, and then we want to add the g of x function, x squared minus 4, to that function. So we just combine them, right? We just have addition, so combine them. So we get x squared plus x, and then 2 minus 4 would give you negative 2 or minus 2, and there's your solution. Okay. It can also be written as f minus g of x. So in this case, we're subtracting. So we're taking x minus 2 from our f of x and then subtracting our g of x function from it. So we get negative x squared, right? And then, so if you distribute the negative and change this to positive, right? We get negative x squared. That changes our negative 4 to positive 4, right? So we get plus x, and then negative 2 and 4 gives you positive. Oh, sorry. This should be x plus 2. So 2 plus 4 gives you a positive 6. And there's our solution. The next one is multiplication. So we're multiplying the f of x function. So x plus 2 times the g of x function, x squared minus 4. So multiply all our pieces. All right, so you should know how to multiply binomials. Right, so x times x squared gives us x cubed. X times negative 4 gives us negative 4x. 2 times x squared gives us 2x squared. And then 2 times negative 4 gives us negative 8. Now, we can write this in standard form, so it goes from highest power to lowest. So x cubed plus 2x squared minus 4x minus 8. All right, so that's when we're just combining the two functions. Now, we're given a value for x. So see right here, this is a value for x. So instead of writing f of x plus g of x, we're going to plug in 3 for x into both of these equations. All right, so let's write this out. So f plus g, right? So x plus 2 plus x squared minus 4. And then we're going to plug in 3 for x. So 3 plus 2 plus 3 squared minus 4. Right, so five plus 9 minus 4, which gives us 10. All right. All right, so let's look at the next one. We have f of 4 minus g of 4. So x plus 2 minus x squared minus 4. All right, so we're going to plug in 4, so we get 4 plus 2 minus 4 squared minus 4. So we get 6 minus 4 squared is 16 minus 4 is 12. Therefore, 6 minus 12 is negative 6. And then the last one says f times g of 2. So we get x plus 2 times x squared minus 4. Now we can plug in 2. So 2 times 2 plus 2, sorry, times 2 squared minus 4. All right, so we get 4. And then we get 2 squared is 4 minus 4 is 0. Therefore, 4 times 0 is 0. Now what we want to look at is kind of an overview of the terms. So the terms composition of functions, or it could be called composite function, refers to combining the combination of functions in a matter where the output from one function becomes the input of the next function. What it basically means is that the range of the first function becomes a domain of the second. So you'll see it in these different types of notations where it says G, and then you see the little, almost like an O, and then an F, or you'll see G and then in parentheses f of x. Okay, so we would read this as G composed of f of x for this one, or you'll hear me say G of f of x. Okay, so any numbers that we plug in first go into the function f of x, right? So they go into inside function, or the one inside the parentheses. And then what we get from that solution, we plug in to the outer function, or that g of x function. Okay. And it works the other way around. If g of x was inside, right, we'd solve for that first, and then we'd plug in what we got from that into our f of x function. Okay, just depends on how it's written out. So before we actually just start going right into solving these, what we'll do is we can kind of break them down. Okay, so say we're trying to find, so in this function, we're trying to find g of f of x. Okay, so again, the f of x, so we're finding g of f of x, right? So, right, that means we need to solve for the inside part first, right? So the f of x function first. So, right, if we had 1 for x, right, in the f of x, right, so we'd get 1 plus 1. So our f of x would be equal to 2, right? And then, right, we do the outside part, or g of x second, right? So we take this answer 2, and we're going to plug in 2 in for x now in the g of x. So 2 times 2 is 4, plus 3 is going to give us 7. Right, so solve for f of x first, and then that answer gets plugged into the x for g of x. So let's try 2, right? So if 2 we plugged in, we get 3, right? Now we plug in 3 for g of x, we get 2 times 3 is 6, plus 3 is 9. Last one, we'll try 3, so 3 we get 4. So now we plug in 4 for x, 2 times 4 is 8, plus 3 gives us 11. Okay, so now you can see that's a little extra work. We can actually skip some of that work by combining the functions together from the beginning and then solving. Okay, so we'll do that right down below. Okay. So we're going to start with our g of x function, right? So 2x plus 3, right? So our outside function. We're going to replace this x with this whole piece of the f of x function. Okay, so instead of just having 2x, I'm going to have 2 times whatever this f of x is equal to, which in this case is x plus 1. And then we have plus 3 left over. So I plugged in this whole f of x function in for this x in g of x, right? So the inside part, or f of x, gets plugged in for the x in the g of x function. And then we just simplify. So distribute the 2, we get 2x plus 2 plus 3, which reduces just to 2x plus 5, okay? So this 2x plus 5 is going to be equal to my g of f of x, right? And then any number I give you for x, right, say it was like 20, right, you could just plug into this one equation rather than plugging in for f of x and then plugging in for g of x. Okay, so this is the simplified version for g of f of x. All right, so let's do the first two together. Then I'll have you try the third one on your own. And then same thing for the bottom pieces. I'll do the first two together. And then I'll have you try the third one on your own. And then I'll show you the solutions for that third one. Okay, so the first one, we're trying to find a of b of x. So that means we're plugging in this b of x, this whole function here, into the x here. Okay, so we get 2 times the whole b of x, right, in for this x, so 3x plus 1 minus 3. Distribute, we get 6x plus 2 minus 3, so 6x minus 1. Okay. Now b of c of x. So we're going to take this b of x function, right? So that's 3x plus 1. But instead of writing x, I'm going to plug in this whole c of x function there. So x squared plus 6, and for that x, and then we have plus 1. All right, so now distribute, we get 3x squared plus 18 plus 1, or 3x squared plus 19. So I'll leave this third part for your own, right? And then I'll go over the solution after. And then we'll continue and do 2 of these problems. So now we're combining them and then substituting an answer for x to get a final solution. Right, so if we look at the first one, a of c of 3, right? So a of x is 2x minus 3. I'm going to plug in x squared for that x. Sorry, x squared plus 6 in for that x. And then have minus 3 here. So we get 2x squared plus 12 minus 3, or 2x squared plus 9. And now I'm going to plug in 3 for x. So 2 times 3 squared plus 9 is 2 times 9 plus 9, which gives us 18 plus 9, or 27. We'll do the next one, right? So b of x is 3x plus 1. So I'm going to plug in a of x for the x. So 3 times 2x minus 3 plus 1. Then distribute the 3, we get 6x minus 9 plus 1, or 6x minus 8, right? And then plug in 2 for x. 6 times 2 is 12, minus 8 is 4. All right, and then try this last one. So I want you to try the third one for the first 3 examples and third one for this next one. And then so I'll have you pause it right now, and then I'll show you the solutions in a second. All right, so here's the solution for the third problem. All right, for the first section, here's the solution for the third problem in the second section. In this one, I actually plugged in 5 first instead of simplifying, but either way you can simplify the this piece first and then plug in 5, or you can plug in 5 for x and then simplify afterwards. Either way, you're going to get the same solution. Okay, so if you guys have any questions on this stuff, let me know on Remind or Google Classroom, and have a good day.